Hi guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at another of these new 2020 Vitae releases. However, yet again, just like the Zhejiangosaurus from a previous review, this is actually another figure that was re-released, as this one was once released before a few years ago, and it's now being re-released, but with a base this time. So that, in my opinion, is super exciting because, as I've stated with every Vitae review of these newest releases, I love having a base with my figures, and the fact that they've re-released these beautiful figures that they had released previously, but now with bases, and actually some have a little touch-up as far as the paint goes. I am really psyched about it. So, as you can see here, this time we are going to look at, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, the Zhejiangosaurus. I don't really know much about the species, honestly, and I mean, I know a little, but I don't know much about the pronunciation. I've actually tried to find videos on the species previously just to learn a little more about it and to learn the pronunciation correctly and everything, as I usually do, but unfortunately there's not too much information video-wise that I could find on the species, so I may be butchering the name, and I do apologize if I in fact am. Of course, we have the really nice packaging here of the box with that beautiful window in there where you can see the figure that's just kind of waiting for us to open it up and take him outside of the packaging. But once we flip it over, just like every release so far, we have gorgeous artwork here on the back of the animal. And once again, Vitae completely killing it as far as incredible artwork goes. This is beautiful for sure, and I love just the attention to the detailing of the picture. Like, you can really see a lot going on, even in the background here, as far as like the trees, and the entire background in general is just as beautifully done as the dinosaur itself. So, incredible artwork yet again on these fantastic Vitae boxes. So without further ado, let's break this open and take a look at this newest version of the Zhejiangosaurus. So, first of all, we have the base, and wow, this base is absolutely gorgeous yet again, and they've done something on this base that they did with the initial base of the first Vitae review that I've done of this new series, as they have like footprints of another species of dinosaur kind of walking through, and I love little things like that, just really little touches that just show such a really cool amount of realism to the base, and just that little added extra is just, it's absolutely awesome. And it actually looks like there's a little more green to this base than a lot of the previous ones have had, and a lot of really nice like areas that kind of appear to have like some moss or something growing on it. I really like that as far as this base goes too. So another fantastic base straight away. And then we have our Zhejiangosaurus, and if we bring her in and set, well, her or him down, I don't know exactly what sex the dinosaur is, but you can see that as always it looks gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Once it's on the base, it just takes you to another world as far as the overall appearance to it, just really creating a beautiful scene before you, and I think the figure instantly looks just so much better on a base than if it were just the figure by itself. Again, one of the many reasons that I love having a base with my figure, but the entire thing as a whole looks fantastic at first glance, as always, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So starting here with the Zhejiangosaurus, you can see up here in the head sculpt, it looks beautiful, and as small as that head sculpt is, there are some very impressive amounts of detail crammed into that head sculpt, and you can see that the beak is painted here on the tip of the mouth with a nice dark brown coloration. The eye is painted with a black, and the face in general has a really nice mixture of like lighter and darker browns to it, on top of having a really beautiful head sculpt and some nice texturing in the face. The head sculpt does sport some pretty nice paint application to it, and you can see that that head sculpt is smaller than my finger, so it is an extremely small head sculpt. Moving back into the neck, you can see some really nice detail in the neck region as well, kind of like some skin folds here on the lower part of the neck, but also just generally like some tensing in the neck, as the dinosaur has its head stretched out really far before it and kind of has its head turning to the left right there. You can see some really beautiful tensing in the neck of the dinosaur, and that's a really cool little minute detail that they've added in here on this figure, and I really like that as well. You can also see some pretty nice color variation in the neck as we move back toward the body. Some more nice variations of brown, and you can see a nice darker brown, almost like a burnt umber or like a chocolate brown showing up in certain spots, kind of striping down. And you can really see right here where the neck kind of connects to the body, you can really see how tensed the neck is right in that area. But once you come down here into the front leg, you could see some beautiful musculature displayed within that leg. Again, some more really nice variations of brown included. This leg is actually up off the ground as it's taking a step forward. You can see some really nice texturing there in that front leg. As we move down into the foot sculpt looks pretty darn nice. Some pretty decently painted nails, but those nails are really small, so it's kind of hard to pick up on how nice they actually look. Coming back here into the body, you can see again some nice brown, like really dark browns up here closer to the side spikes here, but then it transitions to a nice, almost like a lighter mixture of like a yellowish brown and a tan here on the side, and there's just an ever so slight white stripe that kind of wiggles through the side of the stomach region right there. You can also see quite a few skin folds and skin wrinkles and everything going on the side of the dinosaur. Really nice texture to it as well. You can see as I kind of turn it here and it lets the light hit it and shine off of it, you can really get a good idea of the actual sculpt and detail as far as the texture goes in the side of the dinosaur, as well as a few osteoderms poking up here and there. Once you get back here into the hip area, you can see that this dinosaur has a very, very large hip, and in fact, I dare say this, baby's got back right here, which now I might have to shun myself from this channel for saying that, but you can see that the dinosaur does have a very large thigh and hip area, really nicely displayed on the figure. Again, absolutely gorgeous texturing as you move down here into the leg. Really nice musculature displayed in the calf region as well, and you can pick up on a few different variations of those browns included within, some darker browns and everything, and then it lightens as we get to the foot. The foot sculpt looks really good, but it's in a somewhat awkward position to try to get to where we can actually see it pretty decently. You can see the nails are painted pretty nicely. I think that's probably the best view we're going to get of it at this point. And you can kind of see how the skin is stretching off of the body right here as that leg is pulling forward. And then we run the course of the underside of the tail, and you can see how beautiful that paintwork is. Really nicely done. And the figure actually has a slight gloss coat to it in many different areas, which kind of makes it shine and stand out a little bit more than it probably would otherwise. And you can see that the paintwork actually looks really nice. There's like a nice dark wash kind of included here on the underside as far as a nice brownish coloration goes. As you look up here at the side spikes of the animal, you can see some nice paint variation as well. I like how it kind of starts out with a darker brown and transitions to a lighter color, like a lighter tan, as you get closer to the tips of the side spikes there on the dinosaur. As you move back here into the stomach region, you can see lots of really nice texturing on the underside of the dinosaur as well, and even some areas of like white popping up as far as like kind of like a white wash that they've given the figure on the underside. You can also see the cloaca is present right there. Some nice osteoderms in certain spots kind of popping up here and there, and just generally showing the girth on this dinosaur. It's definitely quite wide overall. You have some really nice sculpt and detail in the neck region as well. And then when we turn the figure around, you can see some more really nice detailing here on this side. And on this side, you can actually see how the neck isn't quite as tensed, it seems, on this side, because this side's really stretching, so it looks a lot more tensed over here. This side's a little more bunched up, so it doesn't look quite so tense on this side, which is really cool. Really nice attention to detail. Beautiful paint application again, with some nice variations of brown. Once we get back here into the front leg, you can see how nicely planted that leg is, and with this leg up off of the ground, that one is really supporting the weight of the dinosaur, so you can kind of see that here with like the shoulder blade protruding from the skin. So really nice attention to detail yet again on the part of Vitae. And then as you move down the front leg, you can really get a good idea in general of the structure of the leg and the really nice musculature included. Beautifully sculpted foot. You can see the foot a lot better on this side than you could on the previous side. Get a little better idea of what the nails and everything look like. And then coming back up here into the side of the animal, you can once again see how they have like that really nice kind of dark brown wash that has brought out all that detail really nicely, as well as that kind of very faint white stripe creeping through. And then you also see the different variations of like that darker brown as you get closer to the side spikes up here on the side of the dinosaur, again sporting a similar paintwork to what we had seen on the tail there, where it kind of starts out with a dark brown and transitions smoothly to a nice light tan as you get closer to the tips. Again, some more nice kind of like skin wrinkles and really beautiful texturing here on the side of the dinosaur. You can see again we get to that very large hip area. It looks really, really good. The actual texturing and in general, the skin is sculpted so incredibly well on this figure. It looks ridiculously nice overall. And you can see some more of that nice brown, that darker brown that runs the course of the front of the leg here and just kind of creeps in certain areas and leaks all over the place as far as the appearance goes. It looks really, really good the way that that is painted. And then moving down into the foot, you can see the rear foot sculpt
on this side also quite nicely in comparison to the way we had seen it on the previous side. Get a little idea of what the nails look like paint-wise as well. And then moving back up here into the tail, again, we run out the length of this fairly short-looking tail with some more really nice sculpt and detail, some more of those nice browns. And then when we come to the top of the tail, you can see how striking the dinosaur is. Overall, again, the sculpt on these actual spikes here on the side is really well done. You can see lots of detail included within, and there's also a nice dark brown striping that kind of runs through here. And then once we actually get up here into the back, you can see quite a few different variations of brown included up here as well. And it kind of seems as though it's been kind of like lightly dry brushed with a darker color to make sure all of the texturing up here on the back has popped really nicely, and it definitely has done exactly that. And then once we get here into the back here, on the upper part of the back, you can see again some more really nice color variation with like lighter and darker browns, almost like blacks kind of showing up in certain spots. And the armored areas are also beautifully painted, really nice and natural looking, I will say. I like how it kind of just looks like a stripe across. They've done a really good job of painting that, making the dinosaur in general kind of look quite striking as far as the actual application of the paint goes. And then we move up here into the neck region. The armored area continues to look absolutely fantastic until we reach the top of the head. And we are back to where we started. So this figure is gorgeous. And then if we take a look at the base, again, really nicely sculpted. Just tons of detail in every aspect of this base. And I really like the fact that, once again, they have the footprints on here of another species of dinosaur that has kind of wandered through the area that our Zhejiangosaurus is lurking and, I guess, feeding, walking around, living its life. And you can see, again, every area of this, even like little random footprints over here, and there's one or two over here. It's just so cool the way that these are done. So much realism added to it. And again, look at all the paint variation in the areas that are kind of like green, mossy areas. There's like so many variations of lighter and darker greens. I could see at least a minimum of 3 just looking at it right here, potentially even more. So there's so much paintwork that's been added onto these bases. Really nice textured appearance in the earthy areas. You can see a nice dry brushing on top of the many different tones of color that have been added. So good. The space is awesome. And then, of course, you have 2 areas of vegetation, actually. That's been kind of like the theme of these bases, is having 2 areas of vegetation. And the bases include really nice looking vegetation, nothing that's like plastic or looks really fake. So on top of the really nice base, you get some awesome vegetation and, of course, an incredible dinosaur model to go on top. This is another awesome Vitae release.
And then, just like the Genuine Pelta, the base does not have a magnet on this one. You have no magnets on the feet because the dinosaur obviously is quadrupedal, and you do not really need that when you are applying this dinosaur to the base, because it's really not going to go anywhere without a magnet, because again, being quadrupedal, it doesn't really have any balancing issues or anything, and it honestly looks amazing here on the base. As far as the size goes, for a length from the head to the tail, you are looking at roughly around the 6, maybe closing in on 6¼ inch range, or about 15.5 centimeters. And then for a height, while it is on the base, you're looking at about 2¾ inches, closing in on that, or about 6.5, close to 7. And I almost knocked the entire thing over, so I need to be more careful apparently. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Vitae Zhejiangosaurus. And you can see in comparison to these guys that, again, this figure is not overly large, and at 1/35th scale, you probably will already have a rough idea of what the size is if you are familiar with the species. But regardless, hopefully, if you do not, these figures will help to give you a good idea of the size overall. Being a smaller size, I honestly think it looks incredible, and actually is probably a beautiful size for this type of a diorama, because again, it's nothing overly large, it's not going to take up too much room in your collection, but still gives you the ability to have an incredible dinosaur diorama on your hands. And then for a second size comparison, we have the 2 newer Vitae models as far as the actual sculpts go, with our Zhejiangosaurus. And you can, again, if you happen to have the Zhejiangosaurus previously, you'll have a good idea now, I think, of what these newer models look like size-wise from Vitae. So this brand new 2020 Vitae release of the Zhejiangosaurus, the now re-release, is awesome. Yet again, the figure was phenomenal the first time it was released. I have reviewed it previously on the channel, but that review was ages ago, so it's probably terrible. So I figured, why not review it again here, and we have done that now, and trust me, my opinions actually may have changed a little bit on this figure, but I think they've only gotten stronger and better because I really, really love this figure, and the sculpt is phenomenal. Really nice walking pose for the dinosaur, just kind of walking along. It doesn't look like it's in any kind of like a panic or a hurry or anything. It just looks like it's kind of enjoying itself, and that almost seems to be the way every one of these Vitae models have been posed, because there's no type of like fear or anything in them. They just generally make you feel at ease and at peace, and I actually quite like that. It's nothing that has any type of a dynamic pose or anything off the wall. It's just a really nice, natural looking scene taking place before you with a Zhejiangosaurus, and clearly it's an area where there are some other dinosaurs that are inhabiting, as we have many other footprints there on the base. But honestly, the figure is really, really highly detailed, just like it was previously. The sculpt, nothing has changed. The sculpt was incredible when I first reviewed it. It's incredible now. The paint looks like it might have differed slightly, but I can't really tell because I don't have my previous version here. And if it has differed slightly, it's really not much of a difference. And if anything, that as well has actually potentially improved, because this one here looks really good paint-wise. There is a lot of beautiful paint variation included, and the actual application of the paint is really nice and natural as well. So many gorgeous tones of brown included on the figure, and just generally makes it look extremely lifelike, extremely realistic, I think. And the fact that we have a Zhejiangosaurus from Vitae is awesome as well, because this is just yet another of the species that no one has created that I know of previously. So one from Vitae, one of the leading companies in dinosaur figures, I would say, as far as the overall appearance to their figures goes. It's awesome to have a Vitae release of this species. Yet another very obscure species getting a release that we probably wouldn't have if it weren't for Vitae. The base is awesome also, really nicely sculpted, as every base has been so far. So much detail included, potentially just as much if not more detail than the dinosaur itself has, and a really nice paint application. And I love that the bases are all different. They're not the same at all. Shape-wise, sculpt, everything seems to be different on each base compared to the previous one. I mean, they obviously have a similar appearance, being earthy areas. There's not much you could do to get away from that, but this one, which is quite different from the others, on top of having footprints, it's only the second one that has had that going on with it, but it also has a lot more of like a mossy area to it. A nice amount of green to the base, as opposed to the many different variations of brown and everything that a lot of the previous bases have had. So allowing this to have a little bit of individuality to it, but just generally a gorgeous appearance to the base as well. So this set as a whole is fantastic. Never going to probably say anything different, it seems, as far as these Vitae figures go. Another really beautiful release from Vitae. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that. So make sure you check the description, go buy this fantastic Zhejiangosaurus from Vitae, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.